So, welcome to my new setup. This is what I was kind of envisioning for my future of these YouTube videos. Let me know what you think. I think it's a pretty decent setup, but yeah, probably needs a few tweaking bits here and there over the next few weeks. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this new look. So just recently I was brought on to work the President's Cup, and the President's Cup is a big deal in golfing. I still don't know anything about it, but I kind of got the gist of it. I think it's kind of like the Olympics of golfing. Either way, it was a pretty great few days. For someone that doesn't know much about golf, I had a great time, and I got to see Tiger Woods play, which I'll enter a little clip here. Yeah, that was the winning shot for the whole tournament, and it's one of those moments that, it gets you thinking. You're just sitting there and you're watching this insane stuff happen, and you just think, how the fuck did my career get me here? Either way, I'm super grateful for the opportunity, and thank you to my really good friend Kurt, who brought me on board and trusted me with the work. I appreciate you. Shout out to Kurt. But it got me thinking a lot in terms of my editing workflow. So I was brought on to work the President's Cup purely as a video editor. So I was just cooped up in an office, smashing out edits for a few days straight. And while I was there, I was showing Kurt my workflow and what I do to structure all my edits, and he was quite surprised. I thought my techniques of editing was just kind of somewhat common knowledge, but apparently not, and it got me thinking to make a YouTube video about it. That's why I have this big monitor set up here, so you can watch all of my editing as I'm doing it. I'm also doing a screen recording, so you can see everything clearer as well. So let's not waste any time. In front of me, I have a blank session of Premiere Pro, and let's just start by importing footage. Now, normally I would have like subfolders that I would be importing from, but for this purpose, I am just purely bringing in all my showreel footage. So as you can see, when I bring it up, it's all just in one folder. There's no organizing because it's just like a compilation of the best footage that I got throughout the year. So we're gonna go Command I to bring up the importing. And here is my showreel folder. As you can see, as I explained before, just a whole bunch of random clips. There's no organizing to it because it's from one clip here or one clip there from different campaigns or projects that I've shot throughout the year. So we're just gonna go Command A and then Enter to import, and that'll start importing all of the files. Before we get any further with the editing, just a heads up, my laptop is kind of on its last leg, so you'll hear the machine churning a lot louder than it should be. So here I have all the footage down here in just like the main import place, I guess you could say. So as you can see, it's like an organized mess down here. There's just clips everywhere. And normally what I do with my edits is I just create multiple bins for all the different types of footage that I would have captured during a campaign or any other project. So say for example, I'm doing a corporate gig and I've done a few interviews and I've done some B-roll shots. Okay, cool. So we're gonna come down here to the little bin icon. We're gonna click new bin. And then we're just gonna say interview, for example. This is all the interview footage, interview John. So this is like the interview stuff that I did with John, for example. And then I'll make another one and I'll say, let's say I've interviewed 2 people and this one is interview Sam. So there's one for John, one for Sam. And then a third one can be for B-roll. Well, that's made a subfolder actually, which is not what we want. So we're gonna delete that. And then we're just gonna make B-roll. But on the subject of subfolders, you can make a subfolder if there's multiple cards, or if there's audio, for example, that you recorded separately. You kind of keep that in the same section. So again, new bin, so it's a sub bin in that bin, and you just type in audio for that interview. But for this organization, I am just going to go from the top and just select all of the FS7 footage and put that in a separate Sony bin, and then one for all the drone footage. There's a couple of drone shots, and that way you can kind of see with this footage how I'm organizing it. So let's go Sony, and this is pretty much all the Sony clips here. I think there's 1 or 2 red shots, something like that. Sony, and And there you go, that's all organized. And let's change this to drone. So that's all my drone shots. And that's all organized, boom. So then that way, look at that. Look how organized that is. Isn't that great? So I know that all my footage are in these bins. Again, just keeping everything super organized, and it'll just help you so much further down the track when you're trying to grab other footage or assets that you might have missed earlier. All right, so let's get into the first timeline that we're going to make here. So I'm just gonna go into the Sony footage. Now, most of the footage that I've shot is in 4K. So I'm gonna go over here, video info. All right, sweet, this footage is in 4K. So I'm going to click and drag that into a new timeline. Let's try that again. I'm gonna click and drag that into a new timeline, and boom, here is a perfect 4K timeline set up ready for me to go. But as you can see, it made like a timeline name over here that's highlighted, and it's not a name, it's just like the name of the clip that I've imported. So we want to change that, and we want to change that to RAW. So this is where all of my RAW footage is going to go in this timeline. And what I'm going to do now is select the rest of all the footage and import them into the RAW timeline. So now all my footage is here, but you can see some stuff is shot in 1080 because when I was shooting higher frame rates, I can't shoot in 4K, only 1080. So to fix that, we're just going to right click, scale to frame size, and you still get some of these black bits on the side. That's okay. You're just gonna go up to the scale and type in, let's just say 110, and there you go. Fills it fine. And then you're just gonna go through and just kind of do that to the rest of the footage. What I like to do is I select all the footage, right click, scale to frame size. It doesn't affect the 4K footage, just the footage that does need to scale up. And then I'm going to come up here, go to motion, copy, and then find the other files that have got the black bars on the side and just paste it through. All right, sweet, so that's all done. What we're gonna do now is create our other timelines. Now, when I edit, I normally have 3 timelines, one for RAW, one for select, and one for master. I'll get into the explaining of each one, but for now, let's just set them up. And you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, if I go Command N to set up a new timeline or a new sequence, there's all these settings here, and you're like, oh, well, I'm confused. There's like 1080 and there's 2K and 4K. I don't know if the 4K is the right one that I need. That's okay. Here's a nice little trick for you, is you go back here and you find a 4K clip. Let's say this one, for example, right click the clip and then click New Sequence from Clip. And then there you go. It's set up a new timeline, and again, it's just named at the name of the clip. So he's gonna click it here and type in selects, and then we're gonna do it one more time to get the RAW ones. And we're gonna do it one more time, sorry, to get the master. So new sequence from clip, rename that, master. So I've got my 3 timelines here. I'm just gonna go through and delete the other footage because it's not needed just yet. And we're gonna come back to our RAW timeline. So as you can tell, if I go through here, there's like a bunch of random footage over a whole bunch of different shoots, but they're kind of organized in a way. So say for example, you're shooting a campaign, let's say for example, the President's Cup I just did. We did like 4 days of shooting, so I had the 4 days in like the bins over here on the left, and then I dragged all the footage down here on the RAW timelines, but I separated each day so I knew that each bundle was a different, day, I guess, of what we shot. But if we do that here, for example, and separate these clips, okay, so these clips are from one shot, one campaign I did. If I click and drag it here and separate them and do that, it's like, oh yeah, cool, these are all different things that I've shot, and I've grouped them now, but they're all the same color, so you're probably gonna get confused. A nice trick I always do, I select all the footage, right click, label, and let's just go with Mango, for example. So I know Mango is from this shoot that I did with BMW. This one here is the campaign that I did with Megan Gale. Right click, and let's go Teal, for example. This is a music video that I shot. I think that was like all the clips there. Let me just double check them. Yep, so that's all the clips there. Click and drag them to separate them. Let's label this, what's a different color? Let's go tan, for example. So all the colors, when you look at them, you're like, okay, cool. Yep, this is one shoot, this is the other, and this is the other, and you know in your head what you've labeled is like what you've shot So that way you're not just kind of going through all your footage and you're just confused on, you know, what footage is where you've shot it. You just know for a fact that, you know, these clips are from this campaign, this is from that music video, and so on. So let's get into the editing side of things. You know, you've got a client that's calling you saying, hey, we need this video tomorrow, like, let's speed this up. All right, so you come here, you get this bit of footage and you're like, oh yeah, I remember shooting this. I'm gonna click play and figure out what part that I want from this clip. But it's playing really slow. Painfully slow for that matter. Actually, in fact, this clip goes for nearly 2 minutes long. If you have a timeline full of footage like that, you're not gonna get it done for like 2 weeks. This is when your keyboard shortcuts come into play. Now, there are countless videos out there on people that have customized their keyboard to do all different types of things, and that's great, but for me personally, I just use the standard ones that come with Premiere. I feel like they do a pretty good job. So I want to talk about the J, K, and L keys on your keyboard. Now, these shortcuts are for fast forward, play, and rewind. So your J is rewind, your K is start and stop, and your L is fast forward. So let's go through this clip. L once, plays at normal speed. L twice, speeds it up again, another time, and you just keep going, and then all of a sudden it's playing really fast, and you're like, whoa, okay, this is like a lot easier than trying to like scrub it through with your mouse, because you know, you can miss things that way. So let's go through this again. Let's go L 3 times, 4 times for that matter. All right, still a bit slow, 5 times. Oop, I remember K to stop, because I remember when I went down low that this is the shot that I wanted to use. So let's go through again, fast forward, not going too far. All right, yep, pull focus, go up a little bit, that's what I want. Oh, okay, so that's where I want it when the boat turns. Let's go back a little bit, J a couple of times, K to stop, and that's the start point of where I want to cut. Now, I just use the C, V, and A keys when it comes to the editing, and I just use my mouse to click. So C is the razor tool, A is your cursor, V is your cursor, and then A is the one that selects all the footage from where you've clicked down the timeline if you want to kind of drag things over. So here we have the razor tool from the C keyboard shortcut. We're going to come down here, click that, go forward a little bit. Nice little bird that went by, stop there and get that. So now we're gonna go V just to go back to our cursor, and you're like, cool, I got my clip, but it's down here and it's this little slither in this massive timeline full of footage, and you're like, oh, well, if I have a timeline full of footage, how am I gonna go through and know which ones I've cut? Well, nice little trick I always do is just click and raise up to track 2, that easy. So I know that everything on track 2 in my raw timeline is the selects that I want to go on in the final edit. What I'm actually gonna do before I start cutting everything else is, because this video is like my show reel, it's only music, there's no audio being used from any of these clips. So I'm gonna go Command A, right click, unlink, and that separates the video from the audio, so you're not just like mixing up audio in your final edits, and just keeps everything nice and tidy. All right, so let's use that same technique for the rest of the footage. I also use the up and down arrow keys on my keyboard to go to the start and end points of each clip. Again, just like a quick, easy way to scrub through my footage, as you can see right here. Just way more effective than just clicking and dragging, because you probably miss footage, especially if it's like a little clip like these ones over here. You might miss them if you're just dragging your mouse. Oh, also, I forgot to mention the zooming into the timeline. So I use the plus and the minus next to the delete. Don't click the delete, obviously, but plus, zoom in, minus, zoom out. I don't know, it's just easy to do. All right, so let's just go through all my footage, just grab a whole bunch of clips. So let's just skip forward in time when I've made all my selects. All right, so now we have all of my selects here. As you can see, they're all here on the second channel. So now I'm going to copy them over to my selects timeline. So what we're gonna do is just click and drag to select everything in the second track, Command C to copy, go to your selects timeline, Command V, and there you go, all your selects are here now, but there's massive gaps in between. So now I have to tediously, drag and connect all the clips together. Now, quick little trick is Command A, come up to sequence, and then click on close gap, and there you go. Everything's just there, and like a nice little neat, organized little timeline for you. So now I know everything in my Selects timeline is what I want to go into the final edit. You know, there might be a couple of clips here and there that I might end up scrapping, but that's, you know, once I start putting together the music and all those other elements. So let's just go into the Selects now and go through them and really like kind of fine tune the exact clip that we want to use in our final edit. So I love this car reveal shot. It's probably one of my favorite shots out of my whole reel, to be honest with you. But it just goes for a bit too long, you know? Again, like, so I just wanted to cut here and cut, you know, over here. And, you know, we've got these end clips here now. And you think to yourself, oh, are you just gonna, you know, drag it to the second track again? No, I'm just going to delete everything on either side of the clip. So now I know that this is going to be the final part that I want to use. Just trying to keep my timeline as neat as possible. So let's just go through the rest of the footage, and let's say, for example, this clip, and it goes for a while, but I'm not a fan of this. So I want to get the end part of the, you know, this hand clip where there was like more soap and it just looked a lot better. And you might get that. You might have a client that, you know, you'll do an interview and they might answer the question 3 different times and you select the first part, but they're like, no, I like the third time that they did it. So now you have to go back to your raw files, and instead of dragging and messing up this timeline here, we're just going to find where this clip is by going along the second track here and saying, oh yeah, cool, so this was the shot. Now my client wants the shot where, you know, yep, see there's more soap here and it's a cooler shot, so we're just gonna go in, JKL, find the spot that we want. Yep, that's the shot that they want. And now we're just gonna raise that, copy and paste that into the Selects folder, delete that one, and then there we go. We have the shot that we need. This part of the process is like the fine tuning before you go and polish the edit and, you know, add all your music and your grading, and you just spend some time here just, again, trimming the fat, and then we'll move on to the master timeline. So let's just go through and roughly, you know, get a few shots here and there. This isn't, you know, this isn't going to be anything perfect. I'm purely doing this just to show you guys like my workflow when it comes to editing. I want to get a nice continuity shot here of the lighting of the cigarette. So actually I did a pretty decent job, trim the fat there. So, you know, just fast forward a little bit. Boom, there you go, that's the shot. All right, so I have all my selects ready to go. So what we're going to do, again, Command A, Control C, go to your master, Command V, close the gap, and your master folder is when you just, again, start adding your music and forming the edit together completely. Now, the beauty of doing 3 different timelines is you might be going through the master and think, you know, not really vibing this shot, or, you know, I want to extend it a little bit more. Again, maybe there's some extra bits I want to use. This is when you go back to your selects and, you know, get footage there. Again, if the selects isn't what you want, you go back to your raw. So that way you just know where everything is and it's all nice and neat, laid out, ready for you to go. All right, let's go back to the master. Now, I'm not going to, you know, add music, add color grading, because those videos are a beast on their own. But another little thing when it comes to exporting, I'm not going to show you exporting settings because, again, that is a whole separate video. But you can click X, and here you have like a little sequence in and out bit, and you can just drag that to go over your whole sequence. Say, for example, this is my whole, you know, video that I want to show the client, or, you know, it might be my show reel. Command M to export, and down here, I'm with source range, I'm going to select sequence in and out. So I know that all this here is going to be just the footage that I have. You know, let's say, for example, I have a clip that for whatever reason, let's just say this one, for whatever reason is over here away from my final edit. It might be a clip that I just didn't delete and I just dragged off to the side. I'm just going to go Command M again, and if I go work area, it's just gonna have a whole bunch of blankness here, and then like that little clip is somewhere in that mixed. So that way, if you go sequence in and out, you know that this here is exactly what is going to be exported in your final video. Just quickly, when it comes to grading, I grade with adjustment layers. So I'm gonna go here for adjustment layer. Gonna drag it here onto the 4th or 5th track, just so it's like away from everything. Drag that over here. Gonna rename the adjustment layer grade, so I know that is my grade. So put the adjustment layer there so I know that no footage goes over that, because that's the grade that's gonna grade everything down below. But if you have a logo, for example, you don't want to be putting that underneath the adjustment layer, because it's going to grade and change the colors of the logo, and you don't want that. You know, a lot of clients have like strict style guides and whatnot when it comes to their certain colors. So you're just going to pop that above there, but for most of the time, if you don't have a logo to use, again, all your footage just goes underneath your adjustment layer. And look at this nice, neat timeline. I have all the colors here, everything's in perfect sequence. I know exactly where everything is. And it's just made my life a whole lot easier. Something that I did starting out, and I think a lot of people do starting out, they just edit everything on one timeline. And if you do that, and let's say for example, I've got these clips here, I'm gonna put them over here instead, and it's all in that one timeline, and then ripple delete them, so then I can kind of have them together, it's like shit just gets really disorganized here. And it just gets really messy, and I'm a firm believer if you have like a messy workspace, like you can't focus on your edit properly, and that's when you just start slipping up, it's not worth it. Just take the extra time to create separate timelines and organize all your footage nice and neatly. And I think that's pretty much gonna be it for the video. You know, I have all my bins here. I've shown you how to color all the footage, so everything is organized in terms of how you shot them and the different campaigns or the days if you have a shoot over multiple days. There's 3 different timelines here for your raw, your selects, and your master. And yeah, that's all I can think of really. It's not that hard, but just setting it up like this from the get-go will save you so much trouble down the track. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, give it a like, I'd really appreciate it. If you have any more tips that, you know, or input that you might have, leave a comment down below. You know, we're all on our own like different editing journeys here. You might find some stuff that you might incorporate into your own editing workflow, and you might have some tips for me that I might bring onto my own editing workflow, who knows? So again, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya!